Hi guys, I'm back. Today I'm going to read 1 Kings 4-9, Proverbs 17, and Psalm 141. Let's get started. King Solomon was king over all Israel, and these were his high officials. Azariah the son of Zadok was the priest, and Meharath and Ahijah the son of Shisha was secretary. Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilah was recorder, and Ner the son of Jehoiada was in command of the army. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Azariah the son of Nathan was over the officers. Zabad the son of Nathan was priest and king's friend. Ahishar was in charge of the paths. And Adoniram the son of Abda was in charge of the forced labor. Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel. They provided food for the king and his household. Each man had to make provision for 1 month in the year. These were their names: Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker in Makaz, Shaalbim, Beth-Shemesh, and Elon Beth-Hanan, Beth-Hesed in Aroboth, Ben-Abinadab in Old Naphtali, Baana son of Ahalad in Tanakh, Megiddo, and all Beth-Shean, that is beside Jezreel, and from Beth-Shean to Abel, Mahola, and as far as the other side of Jokni, Ben-Geba in Ramoth Gilead, Hinadab the son of Eder in Mahanaim, Ahimaaz in Naphtali, Bana the son of Hushai in Asher and Bealoth, Jehoshaphat the son of Porah in Azekah, Shimei the son of Elah in Benjamin, Geba the son of Uri in the land of Gilead, in the country of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and of Og, king of Bashan. And there was one governor who was over the land. Judah and Israel were as many as the sand by the sea. They ate and drank and were happy. So Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms, from the Euphrates to the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt. He brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provision for one day was 30 quarts of fine flour, and 60 quarts of meal, 10 fat oxen, and 20 pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and fattened fowl. For he had dominion over all the region west of the Euphrates, from Tifsah to Gaza, over all the kings west of the Euphrates. And he had peace on all sides around him. And Judah and Israel lived in safety, from Dan even to Bishma, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, all the days of Solomon. Solomon also had 40,000 stalls and horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. And those officers supplied provisions for King Solomon. And all that came to the King Solomon's table, each one in his mouth. They let nothing be lacking. Barley and straw for the horses and swift steeds they brought to the place where it was required, each according to his duty. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding beyond measure, and breadth of mind like the sand on the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people in the east, and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser than all other men, wiser than Esau the Ezrahite, and Heman, Chalcol, and Dada, the sons of Mahal, and his fame was in all the surrounding nations. His oaths spake 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. He spoke a truth from the cetaphs and the Lebanon to the hyssop that grows out of the wall. He spoke of beasts and of birds and of reptiles and of fish. And people of all nations came to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants to Solomon when he heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father. For Hiram always loved him, and Solomon sent word to him, "You know that David, my father, could not build a house for the name of the Lord his God because of the warfare with which his enemies surrounded him, until the Lord had put them under the soles of his feet. And now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side. It is neither adversity nor misfortune, and so I intend to build a house for the name of my Lord, the Lord my God. As the Lord said to David my father, you son of him, I will sit on my house, on your throne in your place, and you will build the house for my name. Now therefore command the citizens of Lebanon, you comfort me, and my servants will join your servants, and I will pay you for your servants such wages as you said, for you know that there is no one among us who knows how to cut timber like the Sidonians. As soon as Hiram heard the words of Solomon, he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be the Lord this day, who has given to David a wise son to be over this great people. And Hiram said to Solomon, saying, I have heard the message that you have sent to me. I am ready to do all you desire in the matter of cedar and cypress timber. And thy servants shall bring it down to the sea from the man. Make it into rafts to go by sea to the place you direct. Have them broken up there, and you shall receive it. And you shall meet my wishes by providing food for my household. So Hiram supplied Solomon with all the timber of cedar and cypress that he desired, while Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 cores of ESV and 20,000 cores of bean oil. Solomon gave this to Hiram year by year, and the Lord gave Solomon wisdom, as he promised him. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. King Solomon drafted forced labor out of warriors, and the draft number 30,000 men, and he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month in shifts. There would be a month in Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge of the draft. Solomon had 70,000 burden bearers and 80,000 stonecutters in the whole country. Besides Solomon's 3,300 chief officers who were over the work, and were in charge of the people in order carried on the work. At the king's command, they quarried out very costly stones in order to lay the foundation of the house, and laid dressed stones. So Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the men of Gebal did the cutting and prepared the timber and the stone to build the house. In the 480th year, after the people of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, in the 40th of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the second month, he began to build the house of the Lord. The house that King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. The vestibule in front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits long, equal to the width of the house, and 10 cubits deep in front of the house. And he made for the house windows with recessed frames. He also built a structure against the wall for the house, running around the walls of the house, separating the nave and the inner sanctuary. And he made side chambers all around. The lower story was 5 cubits broad, the middle one was 6 cubits broad, and the third was 7 cubits broad. For around the outside of the house, he made offsets on the wall in order that the supporting beam should not be inserted into the walls of the house. And the house was built, it was with stone prepared at the quarry, so that neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron was heard in the house while it was being built. And the entrance to the lower story, for the lower story, was on the south side of the house, and one went up by stairs to the middle story, and from the middle story to the third. So he built the house and finished it. And he made the ceiling of the house of beam and planks of cedar, and he built the structure against the whole house 5 cubits high, and it was joined to the house with timbers of cedar. Now the word of the Lord came to Solomon, in setting this house that you are building, if you will walk in my statutes, and obey my rules, and keep my commandments, and walk in them, and I will establish my will with you, which I spake to David your father, and I will dwell among the children of Israel, and will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and finished it. He lined the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar. From the floor of the house to the walls of the ceiling, he covered them on the inside with wood, and he covered the floor of the house with boards of cypress. He built 20 cubits at the rear of the house with boards of cedar from the floor to the wall, and he built this within as an inner sanctuary, as the most holy place. The house that has the nave in front of the inner sanctuary was 40 cubits long. The cedar within the house was carved in front of girds and open flowers. All cedar, no stone was seen. The inner sanctuary he prepared in the innermost part of the house, to set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high, and he overlaid it with pure gold. He also overlaid an altar of cedar, and Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and he drew chains of gold across it in front of the inner sanctuary, and overlaid it with gold, and he overlaid the whole house with gold, until all the house was finished. And also the whole altar that belonged to the inner sanctuary he overlaid with gold. In the inner sanctuary he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. 5 cubits was the length of one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the length of the other wing of the cherub. And it was 10 cubits from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. The other cherub also measured 10 cubits. Both cherubim had the same measure and the same form. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was that of the other cherub. And they put the cherubim in the innermost part of the house, and the wings of the cherubim were spread out so that a wing of one touched the one wall, and a wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. The other wings touched each other in the middle of the house. And he overlaid his cherubim with gold. And around all the walls of the house he carved engraved figures of cherubim and palm trees and gold open flowers in the inner and outer rooms. The floor of the house he overlaid with gold in the inner and outer rooms. For the entrance to the inner sanctuary he made doors of olive wood, and the lintel and the doorposts were 5-sided. He covered the 2 doors of olive wood with carvings of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers. He overlaid them with gold and spread gold on the cherubim and on the palm trees. So he made for the entrance to the nave doorpost of olive wood in the form of a square, and 2 doors of cypress wood. 2 leaves on the one door were folding, and 2 leaves of the other door were folding. On them he carved cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold, evenly applied on the carved work. He built the inner core with 3 courses of cut stone and 1 course of cedar beams. In the 40th foundation of the house of the Lord was laid in the month of Ziv, and if the 11th year in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, the house was finished in all its parts, and according to all its specifications. It was 7 years in building it. And Solomon was building his own house 13 years, and he finished his entire house. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon. His length was 100 cubits, and its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. And it was built on 4 rows of cedar pillars, with cedar beams on the pillars. And it was covered with cedar above the chambers that were on the 45 pillars, 15 in each row. There were window frames in 3 rows, and a window opposite window in 3 tiers. All of the doors and windows had square frames, and the window was opposite window in 3 tiers. And he made the whole pillars. Its length was 50 cubits, and its breadth 30 cubits. And there was a porch on the front of pillars, and a canopy in front of them. And he made the hall of the throne where he was to pronounce judgment, even the hall of judgment. And it was finished with cedar from floor to rafters. His own house where he was to dwell in the outer court of the hall was like workmanship. Solomon also made a house like this hall for the Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken in marriage. All these were made of costly stones, cut according to measure, saw with saws back and front, even from the foundation to the coping, and from the outside to the great court. The foundation was of costly stones, huge stones of 8 and 10 cubits, and above were costly stones, and cut according to the measurement and cedar. The great court had 3 courses of cut stone all around, and a course of cedar beams. So had the inner court of the house of the Lord, and the vestibule of the house. And King Solomon sent and brought Hiram from Tyre. He was the son of a widow and the child of the tribe of Naphtali. And his father was a man from Tyre, and working in bronze, and he was full of wisdom, understanding, and skillful in making any work. In bronze, he came to King Solomon and did all his work. He cast 2 pillars of bronze. 18 cubits was the height of one pillar, and a line of 12 cubits measured its circumference in its hollow, and its thickness was 4 fingers. The second pillar was the same. He also made 2 capitals of cast bronze to set on the tops of the pillars. The height of the one capital was 5 cubits, and the height of the other capital was 5 cubits. There were lattices of checker work, with rest of chain work for the capitals on the tops of the pillars, and last for the one capital and the last for the other capital. Likewise, he made pomegranates in 2 rows around the one, and one last row to cover the capital that was on the top of the pillar. And he did the same with the other capital. And then the capitals that were onto the tops of the pillars in the vestibule were lily work 4 cubits. And the capitals that were on the 2 pillars and also above the rounded projection, which was beside the last one, there were 200 pomegranates in 2 rows all around. And so with the other capitals. They set up the pillars at the vestibule of the temple. He set up the pillar on the south and called his name Jackie. Then he set up the pillar on the north and called his name Mars. And on the tops of the pillars was lily work. Thus the work of the pillars was finished. And he made the sea of cast metal. It was 10 cubits from brim to brim, and 5 cubits high, and a line of 30 cubits measured its circumference. And its brim were girths for 10 cubits, encompassing the sea all around. The girths were in 2 rows, and the cast when it was cast. And it stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea was set on them, and all their rare parts were in. His thickness was a handbreadth, and his brim was made like the brim of a cup, like the flower of a lily. It held 2,000 baths. And it also made the 10 stands of bronze. Each stand was 4 cubits long, 4 cubits wide, and 3 cubits high. This was the construction of the stand. They had panels, and the panels were set in the frame. And the panels that were set in the frames were lions, oxen, and cherubim. On the frames, both above and below the lions and oxen, there were rests of bevel work. And moreover, each stand had 4 bronze wheels and axles of bronze, and at the 4 corners were supports for a basin. The supports were cast with rest at the side of each. Its opening was within the crown that projected outward 1 cubit. Its opening was right, and its pedestal is made a cubit and a half deep. At its opening there were carvings, and its panels were square and the 4 wheels were underneath the panels. The axles of the wheels were of one piece with the stands, and the height of the wheel was a cubit and a half. The wheels were made like a chariot wheel. Their axles, their rims, their spokes, and their hubs were all cast. There were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each stand. The supports were one piece with the stand, and on top of the stand there was a round band half a cubit high. On the top of the stand it stays, and its panels were of one piece with it. And on the surfaces of it stays, and on its panels he carved cherubim, lions, and palm trees, according to space of each, with rests all around. After this manner he made the 10 stands. All of them were cast alike, of the same measure and the same form. And he made 10 basins of bronze. Each basin held 40 bars. Each basin measured 4 cubits. And there was a basin for each of the 10 stands. And he set the stands, 5 on the south side of the house, and 5 on the north side of the house. And he set the sea in the southeast corner of the house. So Hiram also made the pots, the shovels, and the basins. So Hiram finished all the work that he did for King Solomon and the house of the Lord. And the 2 pillars, the 2 bowls of the capitals that were on the tops of the pillars, and the 2 last works covered the 2 bowls with the capitals that were on the tops of the pillars. And the 400 pomegranates full of the 2 last works, 2 rows of pomegranates for each last work, to cover the 2 bowls with the capitals that were on the pillars, and the 10 stands, and the 10 basins on the stands, and the 1 sea, and the 12 oxen underneath the sea, and the pots, the shovels, and the basins. All these vessels in the house of the Lord, which Hiram made for King Solomon, were of burnished bronze. In the plain of the Jordan the king cast them in the clay ground between Succoth and Zaphon. And Solomon left all the vessels unlaid, because there were so many of them. The weight of the bronze was not ascertained. So Solomon made all the vessels that were in the house of the Lord: the golden altar, and a golden table for the bread of the presence, lampstands of pure gold, 5 on the south side, and 5 on the north, before the inner sanctuary. The flowers, the lamps, and the tongs of gold, the cups, the snuffers, basins, dishes for incense, and 5 pans of pure gold, and sockets for gold, the doors of the innermost parts of the temple, innermost part of the house, the most holy place, and the doors of the nave of the temple. Thus all the work that King Solomon did on the house of the Lord was finished. And Solomon brought in all the things that David his father had dedicated: the silver, the gold, and the vessels, and stored them in the treasuries of the house of the Lord. And Solomon assembled the elders of Israel, and all the heads of the tribes, and the leaders of the fathers' houses, and the people of Israel, and for King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of the sea of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled to King Solomon at the feast of the month Ethanim, which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark, and they brought up the ark of the Lord, the tent of meeting, and they all the holy vessels that were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought them up, and King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel who assembled before him were with him before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered. And the priests brought the ark of the covenant of the Lord to its place in the inner sanctuary of the house, in the most holy place, underneath the wings of the cherubim. While the cherubim spread out their wings over the place of the ark, so that their cherubim overshadowed the ark in its poles. And the poles were so long that the ends of the poles were as seen from the holy place before the inner sanctuary, and they could not be seen from that side. And they are there to this day. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone that Moses put there, where the Lord made a covenant with the people of Israel. And they came out of the land of Egypt. And the priest came out of the holy place, and a cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priest could not stand to minister because of the cloud. And the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. And Solomon said, the Lord said that he would dwell in thick darkness. I have indeed built you an exalted house, a place where you to dwell forever. Then the king turned around and blessed all the assembly of Israel. While all the assembly of Israel stood, and he said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who with his hands fulfilled what he promised with his mouth to David my father, saying, Since the day that I brought my people out of Egypt, I chose no city out of all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house, that my name might be there. And I chose David to be over my people Israel. Now it was in the heart of David my father to build a house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to David my father, Whereas it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son who shall be born to you shall build the house for my name. And the Lord fulfilled his promise that he made. For I have risen in the place of David my father, and sit on the throne of Israel, as the Lord promised, and I have built the house for the name of the Lord God of Israel, and there I have provided a place for the ark, in which is the covenant of the Lord that he made with our fathers, when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. Then Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands toward heaven, and said, O Lord God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or on earth beneath. Keep your covenant and show your steadfast love to your servants, who walk before you with all their heart. You have kept with your servant David my father what you declared to. You spoke with your mouth, and with your hand have fulfilled it this day. Now therefore, O Lord God of Israel, keep for your servant David my father that what you have promised, saying, You shall not keep like a man to sit before me on the throne of Israel. If only your sons pay close attention to their way, to walk before me as you walk before me. And now therefore, O Lord God of Israel, let your word be confirmed, which you have spoken to your servant David my father, that will Lord indeed dwell on the earth. Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you, and how much less this house that I have built. Yet have regard to the prayer of your servant, and to his plea, O my God, the Lord my God, listening to this cry and to the prayer that your servant prays before you this day. While your eyes may be opened night and day toward this house, in the place of which you have said, My name shall be there, and that you may listen to the prayer that your servant offers toward this place, and listen to the plea of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place, and listen in heaven when they forgive. Listen in heaven and your dwelling place, and when you hear, forgive. And if a man sins against his neighbor and is made to take an oath and comes and swears his oath before your altar in this house, then hear in heaven and act in charge and serve your servants, condemning the guilty by bringing his conduct in his own hand, and vindicating the righteous by rewarding him according to his righteousness. And your people is hard defeated before they person, before the enemy, because they have sinned against you. And they turn again to you and acknowledge your name and pray and plead with you in their house. And hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them again to the land that you gave to their fathers. And heaven is shut up and there is no rain, because they sinned against you. If they pray to the Lord this place and acknowledge your name, and turn from their sin when you afflict them, then hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your servants, you people Israel, and you teach them the good way in which they shall walk, and grant rain upon your land, which you have given to your people as an inheritance. If there is famine in the land, there is pestilence, or blight, or mildew, or locust, or caterpillar, if the enemy besieges them in the land of their gates, whatever plague or whatever sickness there is, whatever prayer and whatever plea is made is by any man or by all your people is, each known the affliction of his own heart, and stretching out his hands toward this house, and he in heaven your dwelling place, and forgive and act and render to each whose heart you know, according to his ways. But you only know the hearts of all the children of mankind, that they may fear you all the days that they live in the land that you gave to our fathers. Likewise the land of foreigner, who is not of your people, comes from a far country for your name's sake. Then he comes and prays toward his house here in heaven, your dwelling place, and do according to all for which the foreigner calls you, and all that all the peoples of the earth may know your name, and for you as do your people Israel, and that they may know that this house that I have built is called by your name. If your people go out to battle against your enemy, by whatever way you shall send, and they pray to the Lord toward the sea that you have chosen, and the house that I have built for your name, and hear in heaven their prayer and their plea, and maintain their cause if they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin. And you are angry with them, and give them to an enemy, so that they are carried off away captive to the land of the enemy far from you. And if they turn their heart in the land to which they have been carried captive, and repent and plead with you in the land they captive, saying, We have sinned and have acted perversely and wickedly. If they repent with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, who carried them captive and pray to you toward their land, which you gave to their father, the sea that you chose, and the house that I have built for you, and here in heaven your dwelling place, their prayer, and their plea, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who sin against you, and all their transgressions that they have committed against you, and grant them compassion in the sight of those who carry them captive, that they may have compassion on them, Then your eyes be open to the plea of your son and to the plea of your people Israel, giving ear to them whenever they call to you. They separated them from among all the peoples of the earth to be a heritage, and you to declare the mercy of your son. Then you brought our fathers out of Egypt, O Lord God. Now Solomon finished offering all this prayer and plea to the Lord. He arose from before the altar of the Lord, where he had knelt with hands outstretched toward the heaven, and he stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be the Lord who has given rest to his people Israel, according to all that he promised. And not one word has failed of all his good promise, which he spake by Moses, saying, Let the Lord our God be with us, as he was with our fathers. May he not leave us or forsake us, and he may incline our hearts to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments, his statutes, and his rules, which he commanded our fathers. Let these words of mine, which I pleaded before the Lord, he near to the Lord our God day and night, and may he maintain the cause of his son and the cause of his people Israel, as each day requires that all the peoples of the earth may know that the Lord is God, and let your heart therefore be wholly true to the Lord our God, walking his statutes and keeping his commandments, as this day. And the king and all Israel within offered sacrifice before the Lord. Solomon offered as peace offerings to the Lord 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people of Israel dedicated to the Lord, house of the Lord. And that same day the king consecrated the middle of the court house before the house of the Lord. And there he offered the burnt offering and the grain offering and the fat pieces of the peace offerings. And because the bronze altar as before the Lord was too small to receive the burnt offering and the grain offering and the fat pieces of the peace offerings. So Solomon held the feast at that time, and all Israel with him, a great assembly, and Lebanon to the brook of Egypt, before the Lord our God 7 days. On the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the king and went to their homes joyful and glad of heart for all the goodness that the Lord had shown to David his servant and to Israel's people. As soon as Solomon had finished deserting the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that Solomon desired to build, the Lord appeared to Solomon a second time, as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. And the Lord said to him, I have heard your prayer and your plea, which you have made before me. I have consecrated this house that you have built, I am putting my name there forever. My eyes and my heart will be there for all time. And as for you, if you will walk before me as David your father walked, with an integrity of heart and uprightness, doing according to all that I have commanded you, and keeping my statutes and my rules, and I will establish your royal throne over Israel forever, as I promised David your father, saying, You shall not like a man on the throne of Israel. And if you turn aside from following me, you and your children, and do not keep my commandments and my statutes that I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, and I will cut off Israel and the land that I have given them, and the house that I have consecrated for my name I'll cast out of my sight. And Israel will become a prophet and a byword among all people, and this house will become a heap of lords. And one passing by will be astonished and will hiss, and they will say, Why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And they will say, Because they abandoned the Lord their God who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods and worshipped them and served them. Therefore the Lord brought all this disaster on them. At the end of 20 years, in which Solomon had built the 2 houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house, and Hiram king of Tyre had supplied Solomon with cedar and cypress and timber and gold, as much as he desired. King Solomon gave to Hiram 20 cities in the land of Gilead. Now when Hiram came to Tyre to see the cities that Solomon had given him, they did not please him. Therefore he said, What kind of cities are these that you have given me, my brother? So they are called the land of Cabal this day. Hiram has sent to the king 120 tons of gold. Near to the account of the forced labor that King Solomon drafted to build the house of the Lord, and his own house, and of the miller, and of the wall of Jerusalem, and Hazel, and Megiddo, and Gaza, and Lo Beth Horon, and Baalath, and Tamar, and the wilderness, and in the land of Judah, and all the store of that cities that Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and the cities for his horsemen, and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. All the people who were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, who were not of the people of Israel, descendants who were left after them in the land, whom the people of Israel were unable to devote to instruction. These Solomon drafted to be slaves, and so they are to this day. of the people of Israel, Solomon made no slaves. He had the soldiers, they were his officials, his commanders, his captains, his chariot commanders, and his horsemen. These were the chief officers who were over Solomon's work, 850 who were in charge of the people who carried on the work. Now Pharaoh's daughter went up from the city of David to her own house, as Solomon had built for her. Then he built the millow. 3 times a year Solomon used to offer burnt offering and peace offerings on the altar that he built to the Lord, making offerings with it before the Lord. So he finished the house. Then King Solomon built a fleet of ships at Azekah, which is near Eloth on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent with the fleet his servants, seamen who were familiar with the sea, to give the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir and brought from the gold 420 talents, and they brought it to King Solomon. Proverbs 17. Better is dry morsel of quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. As heaven who deals wisely will rule over a son who acts shamefully, and will share the inheritance as one of the brothers. And the crucible is for silver, and the furnace is for gold, and the Lord tests hearts. And evil will listen to wickedness, and lie gives ear to a mischievous man. The government mocks the poor and insults his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. And choose not the crown of the age, and the glory of children is their fathers. High speech is not becoming to a fool, still less is false speech to a prince. A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of the one who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. Whoever discovers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. A rebuke goes deep into a man of understanding, and 100 blows into a fool. An evil man seeks only a rebellion, and a cruel messenger will be sent against him. Let a man be as sheep-bear robbed to her cubs, rather than a fool in his folly. If anyone returns evil for good, he will not depart from his house. The beginning of strife is like letting out waters, equipped before the quarrel breaks out. He who justifies the wicked, he who condemns the righteous, are both like an abomination to the Lord. Why should a fool have money in his hand to buy wisdom, when he has no sense? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversary. One who lacks sense gives a pledge, and puts on security in the presence of his neighbor. Whoever loves transgression loves strife. He who makes his door high seeks destruction. A man of crooked heart does not discover good, and one with a dishonest tongue falls into calamity. He who sighs a fool gets himself sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. A joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. The wicked accepts a bribe in secret to pervert the ways of justice. A discerning sets his face toward wisdom, but the eyes of the fool are on the ends of the earth. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her born. To impose a fine on righteous man is not good, nor to strike the noble for their outrightness. Whoever restrains his noble is what tests knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. Even a fool who keeps silence is considered wise. If when he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. Psalm 141. O Lord, I call upon you. Hasten to me. Give ear to my voice when I call to you. Let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and the lifting up my hands as the evening sacrifice. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not let my heart incline to any evil, to busy myself with wicked deeds, in company with men who work iniquity, and let me not yield to delicacy. And let a righteous man strike me in his kindness. Let him rebuke me. It is all for my hand, yet let my hand not refuse, yet my prayers continue against their evil deeds. When their judges are thrown over the cliff, and they shall hear my words here, for they are pleasant. As when one blows and breaks up the earth, so shall our bones be scattered. The mouth is shut, but my eyes are toward you, O Lord, O God, my Lord. And you seek refuge, leave me not defenseless, keep me from the trap that they have laid for me, and from the snares of evil doers. Let the wicked fall into their own nets, while I pass by safely. Now that is done, I should now do the Lord's Prayer. These are our heads, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as you also forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. See you tomorrow. Bye.